On August 9th, 2025, my biological father passed away. It's strange how even when you know that death is part of life, you can never fully prepare for the moment it happens. You think you'll be ready. You think you've made peace with it, but when it comes, it still feels like the air is pulled out of the room. His passing took me back to a time years ago when I first saw him in one of his most vulnerable moments. He had suffered a stroke. I remember seeing the weakness in his body, the way the disease had taken away his ability to move like before. And I don't know why, but in that moment, something sparked inside me. I suddenly wanted to know how the human body could heal from paralysis. I wasn't a doctor, I didn't have any medical training, but I had a burning curiosity to find answers. So I started searching. I looked into biology, first learning about tissues, then cells, then the smaller particles that make up those cells, atoms. Then I found out about subatomic particles, and eventually, the concept of energy. This idea that beneath everything physical, there is something unseen that holds it all together fascinated me. I thought, if the body is made of energy, then maybe there's a way to influence it, to change it. And then, unexpectedly, YouTube's algorithm brought me to a seminar called You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor and John Canary. I had no idea why I was seeing these videos, but I pressed play. And in that seminar, I heard one word that would change my life. Awareness. Awareness of vibration. Awareness of frequency. Awareness of energy. Those words opened a door in my mind I didn't even know existed. And the deeper I explored, the more I saw that these weren't just scientific terms. They were connected to something spiritual. Words like intelligence, power, wave, consciousness, and even spirit. At 36 years old, almost nothing in my life had changed. I would sometimes help a little with the church's bread delivery business, then come home and spend the rest of my day in front of a screen. I was addicted to online games. Every day was the same. I'd wake up late, play all afternoon, and stay up until the early hours of the morning, only to repeat it again the next day. It was a cycle that felt normal at the time. But looking back, it was slowly draining my life away. I wasn't building anything. I wasn't growing. I was just existing, stuck in a loop. Then one day I saw my biological father struggling in pain from a stroke. I don't know why, but an idea suddenly came into my mind. What if I could research how to help him recover? I knew stroke often led to paralysis, and something inside me wanted to find a way for him to move again. That curiosity took me on a journey I never expected. I started learning about the body, how tissues work, how cells function, and what makes up those cells, atoms. Then I discovered subatomic particles, and finally the idea of energy. This realization hit me. Everything at its core is energy. And then came the video that changed everything. Bob Proctor's You Were Born Rich. That's where I first heard about awareness, vibration, and frequency. It was like someone turned on a light inside me. I realized that the way I was living, the way I was thinking, was keeping me at a low vibration. And that low vibration was shaping the reality I was experiencing. Broke, stuck, and directionless. When I began to understand vibration, things started to shift. I became aware that my thoughts, emotions, and habits were all signals I was sending out into the world. And just like tuning a radio, I could choose to change the frequency I was living on. That awareness took me from being broke, addicted to online games, and wasting my days, to building a life where I could create, grow, and eventually become rich. When my father had his stroke, it was more than just a shock. It was like someone grabbed me by the shoulders and shook me awake. For years, I had been living in autopilot. Wake up late, play online games for hours, sleep at dawn, repeat. I was wasting my life in the name of passing time, not realizing time was the one thing I could never get back. But seeing my father trapped in a body that no longer worked the way it used to, that did something to me. It hit me. Life doesn't wait. The body doesn't last forever. And if I kept living the way I was living, one day I could end up in the exact same position, regretting all the time I had wasted. That thought scared me enough to start searching for answers. I didn't even know where to start, so I did what most people do. I opened YouTube. I began searching for how to help someone recover from paralysis. That search led me deeper and deeper into the science of the human body, from tissues to cells, to atoms, to subatomic particles. Then one day I stumbled across something that completely changed my direction: the concept of energy. Scientists explain that beneath everything physical is energy, invisible but very real. And I found myself asking, if everything is made of energy, what's the smallest, most fundamental thing that creates it? That curiosity led me to an old seminar, You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor. I had no idea why the YouTube algorithm kept recommending it, but I clicked anyway. Inside that seminar, one word stuck in my mind: awareness. Bob talked about vibration, frequency, energy, words I had never connected to my daily life before. But something clicked. I realized that the state of my life was a reflection of the vibration I was living in. If I was living in laziness, distraction, and low ambition, that was the vibration I was sending out, and that was exactly what I was getting back. My normal was nothing more than a low-frequency pattern that I had accepted for years. And that's when it hit me. If I wanted my life to change, I had to change my vibration first. That awareness became the starting point for everything. Here's how it translated into daily changes. First, I quit the online game addiction cold turkey. It wasn't easy. My mind kept looking for that instant hit of excitement, but I replaced it with learning. Instead of spending 5 to 6 hours on a game, I spent them watching videos on business, sales, and money. Second, I started writing down ideas. At first, they weren't anything big, just thoughts about how I could help in the bread business, how we could reach more customers, how we could sell better. But the more I wrote, the more my brain shifted from consuming to creating. Third, I took action immediately. If I learned something new, I didn't just think about it, I tested it in real life. For example, when I learned about online selling, I immediately applied it to our bread business. I posted online. I learned how to take better photos. I replied to messages faster. And then something amazing happened. Orders started coming in from places we had never reached before. That was the first taste of what awareness could do. Awareness didn't just make me feel inspired, it pushed me to move. Every day became a test. Was I going to live in my old vibration of procrastination, or in a new vibration of creation? As weeks passed, small results began to stack up. 1 new customer became 10. 10 became 50. Soon, we weren't just selling to our neighborhood. We had customers from almost every part of the country. And because online selling worked while I slept, I experienced something I never thought possible before: waking up in the morning to find money already made. That's when I understood freedom. Freedom wasn't about work or doing nothing. Freedom was about designing a life where my time and energy were no longer trapped in survival mode. The truth is, all of this started with awareness. The same way my father's stroke made me aware of the fragility of life, Bob Proctor's seminar made me aware of the power of vibration. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. Awareness is not magic. It doesn't instantly give you $1,000,000 pesos, but it gives you something far more valuable: the ability to notice the opportunities, habits, and patterns that are either building your future or destroying it. And here's what I learned. Once you change the way you vibrate internally, your external world starts to change to match it. My income grew, not because I prayed for money and waited, but because I started living in a higher vibration, where learning, creating, and acting became my daily standard. Today, I'm not the man who wakes up at noon to play online games until 3 a.m. I'm the man who wakes up excited to see how many people we reached overnight, how much our business grew, and what I can build next. All because one day, I became aware. And that awareness was the seed that grew into wealth and freedom. When I first heard the word vibration in Bob Proctor's seminar, I honestly thought it was just a fancy way of saying feeling good or being positive. But when I dug deeper, I realized it wasn't some mystical, magical word. It was actually rooted in real, observable science. Let's start from the simplest explanation. In physics, vibration simply means movement, back and forth motion, up and down, side to side. Every single thing in the universe is made of atoms, and those atoms are constantly moving. Even things that look solid, like a rock, a chair, or a wall, are not truly still. If you could zoom in with a powerful enough microscope, you'd see the particles inside them vibrating. And here's where it gets interesting. That vibration happens at different frequencies. Frequency is just a measure of how fast something vibrates. Imagine a guitar string. pluck it softly and it makes a low sound. Tighten it and pluck it, it makes a high sound. That's frequency. Now, Nikola Tesla famously said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. What he meant was, everything in existence operates according to these three concepts. Whether it's light, sound, heat, or even your own thoughts, they're all forms of energy vibrating at different frequencies. Here's where it gets even more personal. You are also vibrating. Your body, your cells, your brain, everything is in motion. But beyond the physical vibration, there's your mental and emotional vibration. The thoughts you think, the emotions you hold, they create a certain frequency you're broadcasting to the world. And just like a radio signal, whatever frequency you're on is the kind of station you'll pick up. Think about it. When you're angry or hopeless, doesn't it seem like everything goes wrong that day? It's not bad luck, as much as it's your vibration filtering what you notice, how you react, and what you attract. And when you're confident and hopeful, you start to see opportunities you wouldn't have noticed before. Now here's how I applied it in my life. Back when I was addicted to online games and wasting my days, my vibration was low. Not because playing games is evil, but because I was living without purpose. My thoughts were lazy, my actions were lazy, and the results of my life were exactly that, lazy. The moment I learned about vibration, I realized I could shift it on purpose. I started with small things. Instead of waking up at noon, I forced myself to wake up early. That one change alone already gave me more energy. Then, I swapped hours of gaming for hours of learning. Business videos, personal growth books, anything that would feed my mind something higher. Every new idea I absorbed was like tuning my station to a higher frequency. The more I aligned my thoughts with action, the more my circumstances started to match that energy. Opportunities began to appear, not because they weren't there before, but because now I was aware enough to see them. I was vibrating at a level where I could recognize and act on them. And here's where the Bible connected everything for me. In Genesis 1:1, it says, "In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth." But then in verse 3, it says, "And God said, 'Let there be light.' And there was light." Notice, God spoke creation into existence. Words are vibration. Sound is vibration. And it didn't say God tried to make light. He declared it, and it happened. That means everything physical started with something invisible, spiritual energy expressed through vibration. Hebrews 11:3 also says, "Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear." In other words, the seen world comes from the unseen. The invisible is more real than the visible because it existed first. And that invisible realm is where vibration operates. So when I started to raise my vibration, feeding my spirit with God's promises instead of feeding my flesh with distractions, my visible world started to change. I wasn't just hustling harder. I was working in alignment with a higher frequency, one rooted in faith, vision, and purpose. For example, when I applied vibration to my bread business, I didn't just see I have bread to sell. I began to see I can reach thousands of people who need this bread. That shift in thought raised my creative energy. I learned e-commerce, took better photos, wrote better descriptions, responded faster to customers. All because my vibration pushed me to create instead of just survive. It's like tuning a radio. If you're on the wrong frequency, it doesn't matter how much you twist the volume knob. You'll never hear the right station. In life, the station is your desired result. Financial freedom, health, better relationships. The frequency is your thoughts, beliefs, and actions. If they're out of tune, you'll never pick up that result. The Bible also says in Proverbs 23:7, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." That's vibration in spiritual terms. Whatever you continually think and believe, you eventually become. So I made it a discipline to control my vibration every day. I'd start mornings with gratitude instead of complaints, because gratitude immediately puts you in a higher frequency. I'd read the word and speak affirmations, not just to feel good, but to align my spirit with truth. And then I'd act on that alignment by doing the work that matched the vibration I was in. The results? My income grew from barely surviving to making 100,000 plus pesos a month. And the crazy thing is, it wasn't harder work that did it. It was higher vibration work. Work driven by clarity, purpose, and a spiritual alignment that made me unstoppable. When Tesla said to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, I believe he was echoing what God had already designed from the beginning. Everything you want already exists in some form. It's your vibration that determines whether you'll experience it or not. I'm living proof. From a man wasting his life in online games to a man running a nationwide business, all because I tuned my life to the right frequency. Let's go step by step. Exactly how I shifted my vibration in a way anyone can apply, whether you believe in science, the Bible, or both. Because here's the truth. Vibration isn't something mystical you hope will change. It's something you decide to change and align with. Step 1. Awareness. Identify the vibration you're in right now. Before you can shift anything, you have to see it. This is the same reason why people stay broke, stuck, or depressed for years. They never pause to notice the frequency they're living in. Science says that vibration is simply the movement of energy. Spiritually, it's the state of your heart and mind. Your current thoughts, emotions, and habits are broadcasting a signal that your life is matching right now. For me, I had to admit that my vibration was low. I was waking up late, wasting hours in online games, avoiding responsibility, and ignoring the gifts God gave me. I was living on autopilot. The first shift came the moment I admitted, this is the vibration I'm in, and it's not creating the life I want. Biblical parallel. In the story of the prodigal son, Luke 15, the change didn't start when he got his inheritance. It started when he came to himself and became aware of where he was. Ask yourself, what is my daily mood? My mindset? My patterns? That's your vibration right now. Step 2, change your input. Feed the frequency you want to live in. You cannot produce a high vibration life if your daily input is low vibration content. In physics, energy changes based on what interacts with it. Spiritually, your heart gets shaped by what you hear and see. For me, I swapped 5 to 6 hours of online games and random videos with learning. I immersed myself in business podcasts, Bob Proctor's teachings, Myron Golden's principles, and the Bible. Instead of feeding my mind with distraction, I fed it with direction. The Bible says in Philippians 4:8, whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, think about such things. This isn't just a nice idea, it's a vibration strategy. Practical tip, replace 1 hour of entertainment with 1 hour of learning something that can grow your life or income. Speak scripture or affirmations out loud in the morning. Sound is vibration, and you're setting your tone for the day. Step 3. Move your body. Match the energy you want. Here's something people overlook. Vibration isn't only mental, it's physical. When you sit slouched all day, your body literally sends low energy signals to your brain. When you move, stretch, or work out, you send high energy signals. Science shows movement increases circulation and stimulates brain activity. Spiritually, the Bible connects physical posture with spiritual readiness. Gird up the loins of your mind, 1 Peter 1:13, means prepare yourself for action. I started waking up earlier, walking outside, and keeping my body active. This wasn't about fitness, it was about matching my physical energy to the life I wanted. Step 4. Speak and act in alignment. The Bible opens with God speaking creation into existence. Let there be light. And there was light. Words are sound, and sound is vibration. I stopped speaking like a broke, hopeless man. Instead of saying, I can't afford that, I started saying, how can I afford that? Instead of I'm bad at business, I said, I'm learning to be great at business. Then I backed those words with action. Speaking without action is empty. Acting without right words creates friction. Both together align, create momentum. Step 5. Eliminate friction. Remove what pulls you back to the old frequency. If you keep consuming the same negative content, hanging out with the same low vibration people, and repeating the same unproductive habits, you will get pulled back every time. Science calls this resonance. 2 frequencies in contact will affect each other until they match. If you're around low vibration environments long enough, you'll match them. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians 15 verse 33, bad company corrupts good character. It's not just about morals, it's about vibration. For me, I had to cut down my time with people who only complained and did nothing. I had to stop binging social media that made me feel worse. That space I freed up became space for growth. Step 6, give and serve. Release energy to receive, more energy flows. If you hoard it, it stagnates. If you release it, it multiplies. This is why giving, time, service, resources, creates joy and opportunity. In physics, this is flow. Movement creates life. In the Bible, Luke 6:38 says, "Give, and it will be given to you. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." When I started giving more value in my business, better service, extra effort, customers came back. When I started helping others without expecting payment, new connections came that led to bigger opportunities. Step 7. Stay consistent until it becomes your default vibration. The key is not to get hyped for a week. The key is to build a new normal. At first, shifting your vibration takes conscious effort. Waking up early, watching what you consume, speaking faith, taking action. But if you stay in it long enough, it becomes automatic. Science calls this neuroplasticity. Your brain literally wires to make the new habits easier. Spiritually, this is transformation. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. I reached a point where my default was learning instead of wasting time, building instead of procrastinating, acting instead of waiting. That's when wealth and freedom started to snowball. Why this works both in science and the Bible. In science, your vibration determines what you're in harmony with, and you attract or notice more of the same frequency. In the Bible, your heart and faith determine what you receive. According to your faith, be it unto you. Matthew 9, verse 29. The truth is, nothing magical happened to me. I didn't bend reality. I aligned myself with God's laws and principles, laws that operate like gravity. They don't care who you are, they work for anyone who applies them. I shifted from a low-frequency life of laziness, distraction, and survival to a high-frequency life of purpose, faith, and action. The result wasn't just more money. It was more freedom, more opportunities, and more peace. Think about this. If you tuned your radio to the wrong frequency, could you hear the station you want? No matter how badly you hope or wish, you'll only receive what you're tuned to. That's how vibration works. In science, this is called resonance. Two objects vibrating at the same frequency will naturally amplify each other. But if the frequencies don't match, there's no connection, no transfer of energy. This is why you can't expect to receive peace if you're living in anxiety. You can't expect abundance if your mind is filled with scarcity. You can't expect meaningful relationships if you're carrying bitterness. Your outer reality is matching the inner frequency you're holding every single day. The Bible has been saying this long before modern physics explained it. In Galatians 6:7 it says, "For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap." Sowing isn't just about money, it's about thought, emotion, and action. You sow in the unseen realm, spirit, heart, mind, and you reap in the seen realm, physical life. Look at Genesis 1:11. God set a law that everything produces according to its kind. An apple seed produces apples, not oranges. In the same way, a low vibration seed, fear, laziness, self-doubt, cannot produce a high vibration harvest, success, wealth, joy. When I understood this, it hit me. It's not about working harder in the wrong frequency. It's about shifting into the right frequency so that everything you do gets amplified. Before, I tried to make money while living in the vibration of procrastination and distraction. I worked, but it never multiplied. Why? Because my frequency didn't match the harvest I wanted. When I shifted, by changing my thoughts, my input, my habits, my words, and my company, I started being the kind of person who naturally attracts wealth and freedom. My work began to resonate with opportunities that were already there, just waiting for someone tuned in. And here's something that freed me. God's laws are not biased. Gravity works the same for a saint or a sinner. The law of sowing and reaping works for anyone. That means if I align my vibration with His principles, the results will come, not because I bent reality, but because I tuned into what He already set in motion. The problem with how most people view manifestation is they think they can force reality to change through positive thinking alone. But reality, God's truth, doesn't bend. You bend yourself to it. You align yourself with it. And when you do, your vibration matches the results you were meant to live in all along. I stopped trying to wish for wealth. I started becoming the kind of person who naturally creates it. I stopped hoping for freedom. I started aligning my habits, my thoughts, and my faith with freedom, until it became my normal. And here's the takeaway. You don't get the life you want by chasing it from the outside in. You get it by tuning your inner frequency until it matches the life you want. Then the outer world, by God's design, has no choice but to reflect it. That's why vibration matters. That's why manifestation, as most people think of it, is a lie. And that's why when you align with God's unchanging laws, you don't have to force blessings. They flow to you. Looking back now, I realize that my father, without knowing it, was the one who set me on this path. His sickness was what drove me to search. That search is what led me to awareness. And that awareness became the foundation of everything I've learned and built since. So as I think about his life and now his death, I see it clearly. He gave me more than blood. He gave me a reason to search for truth. And that truth is something I will carry with me for the rest of my life.